we've decided that after crashing my C1, we're going to make a race car out of it. We're going to enter the C1 Endurance Championship, and I'm going to talk to you about all the things that I've bought, or that Santa's brought me, that you need to go C1 racing. Grab a cup of tea, and we'll get on with that. So the C1 Championship has been going for a number of years now, probably not a few years after the C1 came out. They probably decided that they were going to race them. It's a cheap motorsport, it's a cheap championship, but it's also, the rules are very strict and everything is very controlled. So that's what's good about it though, because everyone is meant to be exactly the same. So it's budget and close competition. So it's two things that I quite like. So yeah, our C1 is going to enter in the C1 Endurance Championship, which I'll show you now. This morning, me and Tom are going to go up to Huddersfield and pick some bits up for the C1 project. So let's get in the van, get our coffee cups ready, and we'll see you in a bit. Right, we've come to a bit of a industrial estate in the Huddersfield area, Unit 113 here. So Glenn, thank you for getting us this cage. And we've met Naughty Bear today, so he's sorted us out with some bits and bobs. So we're actually driving the van into the industrial unit, and we're going to load up the van with all the parts. Okay. Right, so we've got a little bunch of bits together here. So we got a cage and some other. I'll walk you through it as I pick it up, and we'll load it into the back of the van. And that is probably the first step of the build of all the parts we need. There is some bits we still need to buy, but we've got quite a lot to crack on with here. Main thing is the cage, but let's go and have a look. We've got cage. These are all the door bars and the roof bar. These are some of the feet, modified anti-roll bar links. In here is bolts for the cage. We've got a pair of shafts, long one and a short one. We've got a tank guard. We've got one lower arm modified, which we need to buy another one. And we've got a pair of track rod ends with the modified bit in the end to make them longer. So let's get all this loaded in the van and back to AutoMax HQ. So the good thing about this budget motorsport is, yes, the C1 is quite a cheap entry-level thing to do, but it's also good to meet the people that are involved with this. So Glenn and Bear at Emax Motorsport, they like offered help straight away. I was interested in a cage because they were selling some. So we had a chat, and then yeah, I think that's just a little bit of a tip if you're going into budget motorsport, is make some contacts, because you never know. You know, coming up here today, we've come away with a little bit more stuff for our build project. We've saved on postage and things like that. So, and we've made some friends, you know, some contacts that we can chat to on circuit, who know the sport, who know what they're doing, who've done it for a few years, to save, you know, otherwise you're learning from scratch, and you might do things the wrong way. But if you meet people who are doing it already, then they know the right way of doing it. I think that is a good tip. Tom's got the easy job today behind the camera while I lug around roll cages. So that's the last bit of the cage. I'm going to take that box as well. One by one, load her up. Do you reckon this is going to fly around all over the place on the way down the M6? Right, we're nearly done. One more. Two more bits. Three more bits. So this is the tank guard. You need one. You have to run one of those. So that's quite handy. It's nicely cut. Saves me making one. And then we've got a pair of shafts here. I'm going to try and carry them with one hand. So yeah, they're modified. As you can see, they've got like an extension piece there. So they're quite expensive. These are the last two bits now. So we're going to load these up and we're going to get back on our way back to AutoMax HQ and start building this C1. There is a few more bits that we need, but we have broken the back of the project here by, as far as parts go, we've got quite a good haul. Right, so I've got a list which I will go back and forward to. So some of the bits, like I said, they're on order and we haven't got them yet, but they are on order. But some of the bits I have got, I can talk you through. Firstly, the biggest thing you need is a roll cage. So this is a safety devices roll cage to the C1 spec that you need for the endurance racing. Now, I found out after that this is only eligible for UK C1 racing. To go to Europe and Belgium, you need a slightly different cage. So yeah, this won't work in the EU. So that's typical of the UK, to be honest. But there we go. So yeah, but that cage will still do us, and it'll do for what we want to do. But we'll have to stay in the UK with that cage. So that's the biggest part you need. There's a fitting kit for the feet as well that you'll need to put in the car to weld in. That's one of the biggest jobs as well, getting all that fabricated in, because you have to strip all the interior out, get the cage in. It's not a massive job, like compared to some rally cars and race cars, but it is one of the biggest jobs you need to do for this. Next, we've got some Powerflex bushes. We've got a bag of them. Oh, look, they're flying everywhere. So we've got a bag of those. They go in some go in the bottom arms on the front, and they go in the rear axle, the two bushes on the side. They're changed. So you're allowed to do those. Springs, these aren't the exact right springs because there's two more missing as well, but I've just put them here for demonstration purposes. Apex, I think it is springs, front and rear. They're slightly lower than the standard one. You use a standard shock, which are on the car, and if they're good enough, we'll use those to test, and then maybe for the first race, we'll get a set of new ones. But they're standard part, KYB shock. There's a certain part number that you need to comply, but it is pretty much a standard part. So we will get a new fresh set of those before we race, but for now we can fit the springs onto those KYBs that are on the car. They're they're 50,000 miles worth of shock. So yeah, we're going to change them for the race, but if we don't get them in time, we can use those to test. Next along the line is these. This is the track rod end. And they've got an extension on them there to make them longer, because this links into the bottom arm. So two wishbones on each side. These are extended, so they are longer to get better camber and better track on the car. So because you've extended those, you need to extend these. So you've got this little extension piece here. This bit and this bit are standard items, but this bit in the middle is like an extender. So you will need those. All this stuff can be bought from the C1 Racing Club, but some parts are OE off certain cars that you can use as well. And I'll put all that, I'll put a list of everything you need up at the end, but as we go along, I'll just talk you through it for now. That is a tank guard. You need one of those. So that goes underneath the car to protect the tank from getting impaled by anything off the track. So you need one of those. It's got to be that spec as well. Shafts are another thing that are extended, so hence why you need the extended bottom arm and the extended steering arm, is because the shafts are longer as well, so that you can see there where it's been modified longer. Again, this is a part that you buy from the club. or if you know anyone that's racing already and they want to part with some parts, I think you can probably buy them off them. But we've got new ends, and yeah, we got this modified special shaft. One for each side, obviously. One's a short shaft, one's a long shaft, but they've both been extended. These are anti-roll bar. Because of all the modifications we've done, the anti-roll bar links are need to be slightly longer, I think they are. So I think these are off like a Gen 2 Civic or something like that. I'd have to double check the part number, but you need those. So there's a pair of those there. We got a seat and harnesses. So we only need one of those, lucky, not like a rally car. You only need one seat for the driver. And then we modify, we can either fix it in permanently on seat rails, or we can modify, we're allowed to do this, we can modify the standard seat runner to fit a bucket seat. Now I've got a few of those upstairs from other cars, which I might be able to modify to fit this. But that means if we're doing endurance and we're swapping drivers, we can move the seat backwards and forwards easy. It just needs to be tight and no play in it. You don't really want any play in the seat, so it needs to be done right. So that's a brand new seat, brand new belts. Right, I'll run you through a list of the things that we haven't got here, but that you need. Right, I've got a list here just to remind me of stuff. But what I'm going to do is we'll get the car up in the air, and then we'll just have a look under it, because we haven't done that yet. So let's send it up. I'll meet you under there. Right, we'll have a look under it while we're here, and yeah, I'll go through some of the stuff we haven't got. One of those is brake pads. The brake pads we're going to use are 1144 Mintex, the same as what we used on the Micra, exactly the same compound, but these have to be stamped with the C1 Championship stamp, so they're like a control brake pad, along with a lot of stuff on this. ECU is another thing. We need the ECU out to send off, and it gets coded and mapped and sealed, but that has to be done by a certain company. So they're things we haven't done yet, but that you need to do. I'm just going to have a look under it really while you're here, because it's not too bad. We'll need some new discs and pads. It's quite flaky, but I mean, we didn't pay much for this car, so we can't really expect a minter. But it's pretty solid. There's a lot of surface rust on it, just because of where it's been living in Wales. But we'll needle gun that and just tidy it all up. We won't have to worry about it. So pads will do. All these shafts and arms, they're all getting changed anyway. The exhaust, I think the exhaust has to stay standard. So we'll just make sure that this isn't rotten and doesn't fall off, because that would be embarrassing. I mean, we are going to test it, so it's not the end of the world if it does. We'll do all the oils and things, but that's another thing to talk about. So where are we now? I talked about the ECU, talked about the brake pads. What else haven't we got? A cut-off switch we'll need to put in, just an emergency cut-off switch in the car and on the bonnet for the marshals to do. Extinguisher system as well. I did see an extinguisher down there in the pile, but we'll need a in-date one. Very much like we used on the Micra, probably exactly the same kit, to be honest. So pull cables on the outside and one on the inside. What else haven't we got that we need? We need a bracket for the receiver. I think that's a lap receiver with your number on it that you get from the C1 club. And then a ballast tray as well. We need to put a ballast tray inside, because I think you get punished with ballast, something like that. Or you all have to carry a certain amount of ballast. There's some rule which I will clear up when I know it, but yeah. So they're the things, that's pretty much everything we need. I think we've got nearly everything. The rest of the bits are on their way. So yeah, I mean, the car itself isn't too bad. I'm not too keen on the brake lines here. I think they will need attention. They're new, but someone's thrown them in from a distance, and I don't really like the look of them. So we want those reliable. For an endurance car, reliability is key. Right, we'll do a quick scan of the car. Ignore the massive damage down the side, because we'll fix that. But that is partly the reason why we got it so cheap. So we'll repair all that. We might even do a nice colour scheme on the car. I don't know. We'll leave that till later. We'll surprise people with that. Another thing you have to have on these is you have to have a button to open the boot in case of emergency, because some of them you do with the key. So if you've got one that's a key entry, you need to change it for a button. Luckily, this one already has the button fitted, so that's all right. I think we're allowed to get rid of that because we don't need that, and it's weight saving. Add lightness is the key. Like, I don't think we're allowed to take too much out of these cars because we've got to keep within like a certain rule specification. I think bits of interior have got to stay in, like the door panels and things like that. But there is some things that we can do away with, like little bits and bobs like that. And we'll try and be like clever where we can within the rules. Otherwise, this side is pretty straight. It's dirty, but we're not going to clean it yet. We'll clean it once we've finished. Or we'll maybe get Jay to clean it, because he likes doing that. So wheels are another thing. I think we're allowed to use these steel wheels, but I want to get a set of the C1 racing alloys, which you can buy off the C1 club. We haven't decided which way we're going to go with that, so we haven't bought anything yet. So the wheels are a control wheel. Tyres also are a control tyre. I think it's a Nankang tyre, so we'll need to buy a set of those. They're stamped with the C1 Championship as well, so it'll have to be bought from them. Where else have we got? Yeah, let's have a look inside quickly. Right, inside, all this is going to have to come out. So seats, front and rear, are going to have to come out. I think headlining can come out. I need to take the dash out because to get the roll cage in, but then that'll have to go back in. We need the handbrake surround, and all this has to go back in. We're allowed to put our cut-off switch on here, I think, so we're allowed to get rid of the stereo. We can put our cut-off switch there and our fire extinguisher pull. There's a certain place where the fire extinguisher has to go. I think that's in the back. It has to go in the same place in all of them, or maybe behind the seat there. And then our ballast tray will have to go somewhere maybe in here, because we won't have a passenger seat, but I'll find that out. I just know you have to have those locations. I haven't quite organised yet. This one, being a Rhythm, has got a rev counter, which is quite cool, because otherwise we'd have to add one of those to it, but we've already got one of those. Steering wheel can come off. I think we're allowed any steering wheel we want, because we don't want the airbag flying out, so we're going to have to take both airbags out. So yeah, steering wheel will change. We've got plenty of different ones, different depths and that, so we'll choose one that suits us all. Because it's not just me racing this, there's going to be 3 or 4 other people, so I'll introduce you to those when we do an episode of when we tear the thing down and start fitting all the bits. Some of those boys are going to come and help me do it, so I'll introduce you to them. They're other drivers, I'll introduce you to them then. What else is there? Yeah, door cards we're allowed to change for like a carbon type door card, but it has to be the same spec as the rest of the C1, so like a C1 Championship door card. This one's got electric windows. I don't know if that's heavier or lighter than a manual wind-up window, but we're not going to change them, we'll leave them. Let's have a look under the engine bay. Engine bay, the ECU is on the back of the bulkhead there, so I'm going to have to pull that off and send that off, because that needs coding. Everything else I think has got to stay standard. We're allowed to wire in some auxiliary lighting, so if we're doing the 24-hour, you'll need obviously auxiliary lighting. We'll clean all these up as best we can and get good bulbs in them so that we've got maximum vision. Towing eyes, we're going to have to put some towing eye tethers in. You've seen the looped version. They need to be, I think there's 4 on the car altogether, 2 on the rear and 2 on the front here, so that it's easy to pull you out. You can just get the recovery crew to slap on a tow rope and just drag you out. It needs to be quite quick, I think, and efficient, so they need to be strong and easy and clear to see. Kill switches will go on the front panel here somewhere. Otherwise, yeah, like I said, everything else in here needs to be standard, so we can't really change much in the engine bay. We're definitely not allowed to tune the engine, that has to be standard. I don't even think we're allowed an air filter. I think we have to put a standard air filter in it. So yeah, it's all pretty. We'll put a new wiper blade on, because that probably needs changing, and we'll get rid of all these leaves. But otherwise, yeah, because this is adding weight, these leaves, believe it or not. There's not much to talk about in there because we can't really touch it, but we will have all the bumper off to put all the towing eyes in and that. So yeah, there's a bit of labour involved, but not too much expense, I don't think. So that's a brief introduction to the C1, our C1. and some of the bits that we need. I'll go over again, so get your notebooks out. I'll go over again exactly the list of parts that you need to buy. The C1 Championship I mean, we're keeping on the budget theme here. The C1 Championship is a budget-themed competition. So, like, everything it's very cheap, but obviously you still need to buy some expensive parts, like the safety stuff and the seats and things like that. But as far as racing goes, this is probably the cheapest form of circuit racing. So I'll go through a list here of some of the parts that you need, the expense, really. If you can get a car cheap, like we did, then you're halfway there then. So if you can get a car, I'm not going to tell you all the prices now, I'll do that on another episode. But if you can get a car, then that is your obviously biggest hurdle. There's no particular order here, but I'll try and go through them. So drop links, we got there. They're not standard, so you need to change those. Drop links, spring kit, so front and rear springs, KYB struts, front and rear. So if the ones on your car are good enough, use those. If not, we're going to buy some new ones from a Motor Factors, but they've got to have the KYB number on them, which is on the C1 Championship website. Pretty much everything that I'm going to talk about is on the C1 Championship website. So if you're not sure, go on there. It tells you everything. But if you don't want to go there, I'll tell you some of it now. Struts, tank guard, and a brake pipe guard, which I didn't mention when I was underneath. I talked about the brake pipes, but I didn't say the back of them needs a little guard on it. So tank guard and pipe guard. ECU map, send your ECU off. Lifeline extinguisher system, so we need one of those in the car. Mintex 1144 brake pads, we need those. They've got to be C1 stamped. A cage to spec, either EU or non-EU, depending on whether you want to go race outside of the UK. That is a non-EU cage, but it's fine for what we want to do. Drive shafts, got those. Wishbones, there's one there, I've got another one on order. Bushes, we need a bush kit for the car. Cut-off switch, we've got one of those yet. And the extinguisher cut-offs comes with the extinguisher kit. Track rod end extensions, we've got those there, a pair of those. Fuel sample kit, a bit like on the rally cars, we've got one of those. Seat, belts, and the mounting kit, we've got all that there. A bracket for the receiver and a ballast tray, and then also I forgot to mention here the shims for the back beam, so you can shim the beam out. They're only tiny, they're like a couple of quid each, but you'll need those. I think that's pretty much all the parts you need to go racing. Also wheels as well. I mean, you can use the original steel wheels, but it's nice to have the alloy ones. It just looks more of a race car with those on it. So wheels and the control tyre as well. I think that is pretty much it that you need to build the car. There is other things you need to do, like you need to join the club, and there's a few other things you need to do you need to join the club, get a number, you choose a number for yourself. And then a load of labour putting it all on. So get all your mates involved and build it like that, load of late nights. But we'll take you through some of the process of building it. We won't document every single inch of it, but we'll skim over the top and show you all the important bits if we can. That's pretty much it. So that was just a quick intro to the C1 in this episode. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment as usual. We like all that stuff. So in the next episode of the C1, we'll probably start ripping it apart. We'll have had more bits delivered by then, and we'll start digging into it. So I'll get the boys round. Tom and Mike are going to help me do a day on it, so they're going to be drivers as well. I'll introduce you to them on when they come, basically. So thanks for watching, and hopefully next time you see it, we'll have some progress on it. And in other news, the 205 Rally, that might be another episode, because that's getting closer to being built. So we'll bring that to you then. Thanks a lot. Got some work to do now. Bye-bye.